I am Ray, and hurry up and watch this before the Matrix notices you. Neo, there's still time. Or I guess it could be Nia, if you're a woman. You see, the leader of the Matrix, its name is the monster mind. See? And its whole job is to keep us in ignorance, so that we can be a slave like batteries, because the monster mind lives in darkness, and only when we too are living in darkness does it have any influence over us. You see, so now, what do we have to do? We have to stop living in ignorance. You have to remember your power. Have you not been taking your pills like I suggested? Well, I guess this is a duck, but you know what I'm talking about. Once you remember your true power, you will never be a slave again to anything. And that is what this is all about. You see, I talk to people who refuse to be a slave to a life they don't desire. And the only reason we live lives that we don't desire is because we're living in ignorance, because if you knew your true power, you would create any life that you desire. You wouldn't settle for less. The only reason we settle for less is because the monster mind fools us into thinking we are less. I bet you shop at Walmart. I'm disappointed. You must never go there, Neo. Or Nia. Like in Lion King, where Mufasa was telling Simba, look, everything the light touches, it's yours. It's yours, Simba. Except for over there. That's Walmart. Never go there. Everything the light touches is already yours. Don't you know this? But where the light does not touch, it's the monster minds. It's like, imagine the boogeyman. It can only walk around in darkness. But once it's light out, it's like, no, I can't have this. Or I guess that's a vampire, huh? I thought I was being original. I guess not. Well, the monster mind is like a vampire. It's got to steal those juices. But, like a vampire, the only way it has any influence over you at all is if you invite it in. And once you invite it in, well, then there's no telling what's going to happen. We give the monster mind our consent through our belief in its power. The power that it does not have. Our belief in its illusion. It's like, why the demons, they have scary faces. Why do they have scary faces? Because they want to convince you that they somebody. But they ain't somebody, It's like someone in the hood carrying a strap. Look at my strap. Look, homeboy, I do not have time for this. I'm trying to escape the Matrix over here. You're trying to escape the ghetto. We're not the same. You see, the source of all power is the light in you that has been covered up by darkness. Why has it gotten covered up? Well, imagine two mirrors. We're going to take someone like Jesus. We're going to take someone like most everyone else. When Jesus looks in the mirror, what does he see? He sees a clean, pure reflection staring back at him. The light that is the Christ. And what do we see when we look in the mirror? We see a distorted image of ourselves. That which is not true, but we believe it to be true, because on the mirror is caked on all of this dirt and muck and mud and stuff. In other words, it's earthly conditioning, earthly attachments that we have that blind us to the true nature of reality. So when that Christ light shines forth, it's dimmed because of all of this darkness, all of this ignorance. Darkness is just the absence of the light. You can't get rid of the darkness, you just have to allow more light in. The Christ is not Jesus' last name, if you did not know this. The Christ is a title like the Buddha. It's basically the same thing. It's for those who recognize their true nature as the light. And once you recognize your true nature as the light, where you stop throwing poop on that mirror, you begin polishing it until you too become a perfect, clean, pure vessel, empty of karmic attachments that blind you from recognizing your true nature. And what could Jesus do? Well, Jesus had a lot of magical powers. But why? How could he do this? I mean, we don't even believe in miracles nowadays. It's because the light is the power of God. And the more power of God, the more light you allow to shine forth. Oh no, they found me. Here, take this pyramid. Maybe I can convince them with some tasty bananas. False alarm, it was just the neighbors. The more light you allow through you, the more God power you allow. Which means that you have literally more power to do whatever. But only when that light is dimmed do you feel like, well, I'm not good enough. That is why people give up and settle for less. But not you. You are entering into your royal consciousness, are you not? That is why Jesus is called the King, King of Kings, royal consciousness. But that same light is in you. If you seek, you will find. Knock and the door will be opened. Unless I'm in the bathroom, then don't knock, because, I'm busy. And that's very rude. Until we connect with that God power within, we're always at risk of being a slave, because there's always a little bit of ignorance on the mirror in which the monster mind can come along, grab our cheeks through that darkness, pull us down. Not good. But you don't have to spend, however many decades polishing the mirror in order for you to be free, in order for you to recognize your true power. In fact, you cannot polish the mirror until you already recognize it. And I don't know, I think Jesus gave you a few hints, like the kingdom of God is in you. Have you been looking? After all of these thousands of years, I figured someone would look. I'll give you an example. I'll paint you a map. Maybe this will help. So, at the core fundamental of it all is the ground of being, you could call it. It's also called consciousness. So consciousness is the ground of being. What does this mean? It means the default state, the foundation of you, is God, consciousness, perfection, the light. But then the light gets filtered through all of these different layers, like onions, like ogres. And those layers are called the mind and the body. The body-mind, this ground of being that is consciousness, is true for all beings, really. Even the amoebas. When you look into your dog's eyes, not only just your homies, but your actual literal dogs. When you look into their eyes, it's the same consciousness looking back at you. When you look at your homies, it's the same consciousness looking back at you, although probably dimmed if they're in the ghetto. Because our consciousness gets attached to the body, and once you become free from that, well, then it just gets attached to the mind. So, for example, there's those living in animalistic consciousness, unconsciousness in which their consciousness is trapped in the body. It's such a strong attachment that all they can do is just express their animal instincts and their functions. They have no ability for higher awareness. They call them the NPCs, non-player characters, because they don't have any freed up consciousness. That is the God power. That is what allows you to have free will. Because God has ultimate free will, how much God you allow in determines how much free will you have. That is why animals do not have free will, because their consciousness is tied up in their monkey bodies, or animal bodies, whatever. And then once you get free from that, well, it gets attached to your mind and your personal identity and your ego of what you want and who you think you are. It's different layers of the matrix that keep us stuck. So at the bottom of the matrix, you have all of the people stuck in animalistic consciousness. Once you break free from that layer, you have the ego in the mind and all that jazz. And that's probably the hardest layer to escape from, because we've spent our whole lives believing we are this person. And we've spent a lot of emotional energy invested in being this person. I've spent my whole life believing this was me. How am I just going to not just stop believing that? It cannot be done unless you have some kind of spiritual awakening or some kind of midlife crisis, where everything you believe to be true falls apart. And what that is your illusions falling apart. And I like to say hell is sometimes facing the truth when you've been living a lie, because the light of truth shines forth and illuminates your darkness. And that is like a burning sensation. It's a dissolution of the darkness, which you are attached to, burning away. But it's necessary, because so long as you're attached to your ignorance and your illusions, you will be a slave. Literally, because your consciousness, that is you, is tied up, literally knotted up, and condensed and trapped. And the whole spiritual journey is about freeing yourself from these karmic attachments. Like Jesus said, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven unless you come to me as little children. Unless you come to Christ, pure in mind and pure in heart, free from your karmic attachments, unconditioned. It's just not possible to rise to those higher heavenly states, because those karmic attachments are keeping you tethered to the earthly realm and preventing you from experiencing everything you've ever desired. Heaven on earth, heaven after death, it doesn't matter. It's all the same. If you want to experience your dream life, whatever that means to you, you don't even probably know what it means, because I don't think anyone knows really what it means. We may have some vision, but the actual reality is much different than a fantasy in your mind. You can just assume that heaven is the best of the best of the best. But in order to experience that while you are alive, you have to allow more light to flow through you, because that light is God and God is heaven. The nature of that light, its quality, is peace, love, joy, and abundance. And the reason we struggle, the only reason we struggle in this life at all, is because we have that ignorance, that earthly conditioning covering up the light. That is the source of harmony. So where harmony is not, there is problems. That is why we struggle. Because we're living closer to animals than we are to God. And animals do nothing but survive their whole existence. All they do is eat and poop, and sometimes get lucky. But if you want any kind of meaning and purpose in your life, you have to connect to the ground of being, which is already present. You are already consciousness. You're just believing that you're not. It's all right here, right now, only temporarily being covered up by your mind stuff. The ego, which is all of this, is like a big dark cloud that covers up the light and the warmth of the sun. But the sun is always there, is it not? No matter how many clouds block everything, you can't block out the sun, because the sun is too big. You can only block out your perception of it. But it's always there. And you are that. And in real life, it's a little bit different, because you can witness the ground of being right now. There's nothing stopping you, except for your own mind stuff getting in the way. Like, I am trying to find my true nature as consciousness. Where is it? Well, who is the one trying to find it? Answer me this. The ego is trying to find what the ego is not. The ego is the one getting in the way. The one who is searching is also getting in the way, because you identify as the one who's seeking, but you are already what you are. And that is why it is tricky, because we've lived our whole lives from the ego state, but the ego cannot experience this. Only you can experience this. Before mind, before there's any thoughts about it. Now, of course, sometimes we have to be a seeker before we can be a finder. But I'm making a point that what you are looking for is before all thoughts. It's before the mind. It is you. So you have to find, what is that? What are you? That's why they have the process of self-inquiry, asking yourself the question, well, who am I? It's a really simple practice. All you got to do is use your reasoning to discover what you are. And there's also another part of this called neti neti, which means not that. I'm not that. So the first step is recognizing that anything that you experience cannot be the real you. Because on one level, there's an object that you experience, And there's you experiencing that object. So you can kind of see right away, okay, a lot of people believe they are their body, or at least they act like that. They may not say it, but they act like it. Because when you stub your toe, you start freaking out and you get pissed off because you're attached to your body. But is your body an object? I hope not. I mean, unless you like that kind of thing. It is an object, actually, because you can experience it. What about your thoughts? Are your thoughts an object of your experience? Well, you can experience your thoughts. So I am not my thoughts. I am not my body. Can you experience your mind? You know when your mind is focused, or when it's dull, or when it's sharp. You can experience the qualities of your mind. And you just keep searching. You can close your eyes and ask yourself, okay, where am I? I am here, but where am I? And the answer is right in front of your face. It's just tricky because the mind wants to grasp at an object to understand this. But you fundamentally are not an object. You are the witness behind the objects. So the realization that will occur at some point is you close your eyes and you see for the first time your true reflection, your true nature, that you are that awareness that observes and experiences all things. All things in life arise in you, the awareness. And the moment you see it, you'll realize it was always there. Because you were always there. But you are living in a dream. A dream in believing what you are not. Believing that you are the ego, the mind, the body. And that is why this is called waking up. Spiritual enlightenment. You're going from darkness into light. From unconsciousness and ignorance into awareness. And when that happens, your consciousness day by day becomes free from those attachments and returns back into itself. And when all of those karmic attachments, as they begin to fall away, the natural bliss that is your true nature emerges over time. And one of the first things you will experience is peace and freedom, because you no longer feel the need to get pulled around by your mind stuff anymore, pulled around by your circumstances and your experiences, because you are already free. But the whole game of this life is that the monster mind has to get you to believe that you are not free by identification with what you are not, so that you enter into ignorance and fall under its influence. But the moment you wake up, you can never be a slave to anything again, not any power in this universe, because you are the light. And the forces of darkness have no power over the light, because when you put them in the same place at the same time, who wins? The light. And there's no comparison, there's no competition. You don't have to overcome the evil in the world or the ignorance in the world, or you don't have to even think about other people at all. You just have to overcome the ignorance in your own self. And then everything else takes care of itself by default. As the spiritual teacher Muji once said, or would say a bunch of times, you stop living from personal identity and you start living from presence. You start living from the ground of being. Why do you think I say after every video, just be? This is what I'm talking about right here. Because when you just be, that is the state of royal consciousness. Being. Whereas, let's say, the state of doing is the state of the warrior. I think there's a book about that. The state of the feeling is the lover, I think. But you get it. You don't want to just make yourself a better life, more objects. You want to tap into the perfection of what you already are. That is why Jesus said, seek first the kingdom, and then everything else will be added on to you. You have to find the one thing that matters most in this life. Waking up to your true nature as the limitless, eternal, divine essence of God. Because if you don't do it, somebody else will, and you will be a slave to their reality. And that is why a lot of evil people, or we think the evil people, rule the earth. Because the evil people don't have humility. They just say, I want what I want, and I'm going to take it. They've claimed their power. So you too have to claim your power. If you want not to be a slave. And it doesn't matter the circumstances. Because think about it. Think about how tricky the monster mind is. Let's say the economy is bad and there are no jobs. Well, most of the monkeys are going to say, well, there's no jobs, I can't do it, this sucks, I'm struggling. Why can't I, it's hard for everyone right now. Not for you. Doesn't matter. The rich proliferate all the time, whether it's a depression, whether it's good times or bad times. The royalty always win, and the poor always lose. The plebs, they always lose. Even when times are good, they lose. Because that is their nature. So you cannot be a pleb. You have to be royalty. And then you win all the time. Doesn't matter what your circumstances are. You are the creator of everything. You are the source of what you seek. And until you wake up to your true power, you will be a slave to someone else who knows their power. As Leonardo DiCaprio once said in The Wolf of Wall Street, there is no nobility in poverty. Because what good is your morality if you're a slave? Slaves can do nothing, and they allow the evil people to just run amok, so it's not moral. But in our societies, we kind of believe it is. Well, you should be humble, you shouldn't want much. All of these material things, you don't need those. And that is, another trick of the monster mind, to get you to believe that, well, yeah, I don't want much, so that you're a slave and that you settle for less. Now, of course, these objects, these material things will not satisfy you. That is why Jesus said, seek the kingdom first. Find everlasting satisfaction in what you are right now with nothing. You are perfection. Life is perfect now. And only then, when you live from this state, can you effortlessly express abundance as your true nature. And you become a gift for the world who are struggling in ignorance and darkness, who will never escape. They will never. They will be stuck there for their whole lives and they will die, because that is the price of ignorance. The price of ignorance is slavery and death. Let that not be you. And if you are someone who refuses to be a slave to a life they don't desire, find your tribe down below. Much peace and many blessings. And remember, just be.